It actually feels like it's been a while since we've had any spoilers, which is kind of funny, but Murders at KARLOV Manor spoilers started today, and the set releases in about a month. I think it's actually a little less than a month, in February, and so you can imagine the hype on this is strong. I do think 2024 is going to be a really fun year for Magic. There's some pretty exciting products and sets lined up, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they bring us. It also does feel like it's going to be a little bit less rapid fire this year. Like, there's still a decent bit of sets coming out, but not quite as many, and hopefully there'll be some more focus put on the actual Magic stuff themselves. But let's actually just dive into the start of these reveals, and as we've done throughout every spoiler season, I'm pretty much going to be posting videos daily or multiple times a day, trying to cover as much of the relevant cards as I can. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about these set of reveals, and be sure to check back for others if you have not done so. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and then like the video and click the bell icon if you want to get notifications whenever my new videos are posted. So the first big news here is we are getting a full cycle of 10 new dual lands. Now, they are dual lands that come into play tap, so obviously for some people that's going to be a little bit of a disappointment right off the bat, but I would argue that these are all really, really welcome additions, especially because they are actually typed, which means you can fetch them or get them with other cards that care about specific typing. They basically make the temple lands completely obsolete because, while those let you scry one, they certainly do not have the actual typing there, and so at least these have a bit more utility. Every single one has a, when it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. For those of you unfamiliar with Surveil as a mechanic, it says look at the top, X cards of your library, where X is whatever the number is, put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of the library in any order. So in the case of these lands, you're just looking at one and then either putting it back or putting it in grave. Definitely solid and gives you a bit of options for other strategies, but I think these are really good lands specifically because they are typed, and it does give you access, especially in Commander, to a lot of other things. They have some beautiful artwork, and yeah, we are getting all 10 of them in this one set, which has not happened in quite a while, if my research prior to this video is to be believed. And so yeah, I'm kind of pumped about this. Hopefully none of them will be too expensive or anything. They are rares, which is nice. They're not groundbreaking or anything, but anytime we get more dual lands that have actual typing, it's definitely a plus in my opinion. Kaa Spirits Justice. This is the one and only Planeswalker of this set, and obviously, well-known card. I believe she got a print in March of the Machines relatively recently, obviously a different card, but this one is pretty solid, I think, and it says whenever one or more creatures you control and or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them. Until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. So there aren't a lot of cards that really interact with exile, or at least allow you to somehow protect your exiled cards, if you will. This is pretty cool, if your cards get Swords to Plowshares, or if you exile cards for, the new collect evidence mechanic, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. There are definitely a lot of different ways to utilize this, and turning any token into a copy of it with flying means you could make your clue token into a, exiled whatever creature gets exiled with this. That's pretty cool, and it's a bit unique in terms of the actual design. So for its Planeswalker abilities, you can +2 to Surveil 2, then exile a card from a graveyard. You can +1 to create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying, and you can -2 to exile target creature you control, and then for each other player, exile up to one target creature that player controls. That's pretty solid removal, and of course with her first ability, if you do exile a creature of yours, you can then make a copy of that creature, at least until, the end of the turn, and maybe get some more use out of it. I think in terms of card design, this is actually really unique, but it feels like it actually has some playability as well, so I like it. I don't know, some of the Planeswalkers we've gotten in the past couple sets have been okay. I think this one's definitely a little bit on the stronger end, but obviously we'll have to see what it looks like once, it actually comes out. Speaking of cards we've gotten in previous sets, Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, not this exact version of Kellen, but Kellen did get prints, I believe, in as recently as Wilds of Eldraine. I don't know if Kellen was in Ixalan or not, but this is an adventure. It is a blue-green adventure. The sorcery side says investigate. You may play an additional land this turn, and then you can cast it as a creature. Flying, vigilance. Whenever it attacks, destroy up to one target artifact. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. So the first thing right off the bat that kind of strikes me with this is the ability to pop your own clue tokens if you want to draw cards, but being able to have the option to get rid of problematic artifacts that the opponent controls is certainly a nice win-win situation. And obviously in Simic strategies, being able to play extra land and ramp is never a bad thing. I don't have any strong feelings on this card one way or another. It certainly seems decent. I don't think it's like incredible or anything, but not a terrible card, and I'm sure there will be places that it gets utilized. I actually really like Tulirs Midnight's Light, which is 2 green, white, legendary creature, elf scout. It looks like we're actually getting a good bit of elves in the set, which is cool, and obviously on theme with some of Ravnica's previous releases. Lifelink, when it enters the battlefield, create Vosja Fenstalker, a legendary 5/5 green and white wolf creature token with trample. Whenever a wolf you control attacks, if Tulirs attack this combat, target creature and opponent controls must block that wolf if able. So it gives you the 5/5 wolf, it has lifelink, and then when it attacks, you can attack with the wolf and then make it so that the wolf has to be blocked by something so this can kind of get through unfazed. And honestly, the way it's worded, I think, and I'd have to, somebody could maybe clarify for me, I think if you attack with multiple wolves, you could make your opponent have to block each wolf individually, because it doesn't say whenever one or more wolves attack. So if that's the wording on it, it certainly gives you a little bit more wiggle room to move around with. But I think it's a solid card as a whole. I do like its design, and I think depending on, you know, other wolves, and obviously plenty of wolves exist already. Werewolves, I don't know if werewolves count. They probably don't, right? Or do they? I don't know. This is one of those things where, like, someone who got into Magic, you know, in the past couple of years, doesn't have that vast bit of knowledge from the past. But I mean, it says wolf on the card. My brain, thinking of like Yu-Gi-Oh, would want to look at it and say, okay, well, it's still technically a wolf, but it may have to be just a wolf subtype. I don't know. Either way, though, there's plenty of wolves, and I'm sure more that will be coming out alongside this in the set. So it's a cool card in every respect. One that I really like, actually, is Branch of Vitu-Ghazi, and this is a land that taps for colorless, but it has Disguise 3, and it says you may cast this card face down for 3 as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2. Turn it face up at any time for its Disguise cost. So you basically pay 3, cast it face down, and then you can pay 3 to flip it up later, but the ward makes it a lot harder to hit it, of course. And when it's turned face up, you add 2 mana of any one color. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So, you know, stash it down, give it protection, and then turn it up later to be able to use it to get some extra mana ramp, depending on when you're doing this. This is obviously really cool, and it doesn't have to be turned up by its disguise cost. There are going to be other cards in the set that allow you to turn face down cards face up. Of course, playing into the whole investigation and clue mechanic that we've got going on with the theme of the set. I just really like the keyword as a whole and the design of the card. It'd be kind of cool if we got a couple of other lands like this. But I'm excited to actually see what comes of it for sure. Now we've got Axebane Foox. This is 2 green creature beast with death touch and haste, and it has ward collect evidence 4. So this is a new keyword, collect evidence. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, that's the ward part, of course, counter it unless that player exiles cards with total mana value 4 or greater from their graveyard. So the collecting evidence is going to basically require you exiling cards, but instead of number of cards like Delve, this is just looking at the total mana value. So if you were to exile a 4-cost card, that's going to satisfy, you know, the requirement right off the bat. I do know for a fact that there are going to be other cards in the set that have this collect evidence mechanic as well, and they will obviously do different things. Some of them seem like they might be a little bit better than others, but I do always like when they're, you know, introducing new things like that. And still, a 4-drop death touch haste with ward is certainly not bad, especially for formats like Standard, if that's even still played all that much nowadays. So this is a kind of a neat card. I don't think it's necessarily going to be, you know, doing much outside of, you know, niche decks and uses, especially not in formats like Commander, but it's worth mentioning, and obviously the new keyword is really interesting too. Now we've got Judith, Carnage Connoisseur. This is obviously an upgrade of Judith the Scourge Diva, or maybe not an upgrade depending on what you think, but it's certainly a different version. This one is 3 black-red, legendary creature human shaman. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose 1. That spell gains death touch and lifelink, or create a 2/2 red imp creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. And this one strikes me as super fun. There are not too many cards that give your instants and sorceries those keywords. I know a couple exist, but the ability to take a card like Play with Fire and turn it into death touch and lifelink, so you damage a creature for 2, you're going to gain the life, and the creature's going to die regardless because it was dealt damage. If you're playing a lot of low-cost spells like red is known to do, that like ping or do other things, you can really kind of utilize this card to make a lot of funny things happen. And of course, black does have its own, you know, line of somewhat powerful, a little bit different in terms of damage dealing. Usually they just say destroy, but somewhat powerful, you know, instant sorceries you can utilize. And if the card doesn't really work in that regard for you, then of course you can do the other option of creating the imp creature token and then deal damage when it dies. This one, so far, for me, feels like the most exciting to build a commander with, and I'm sure people are going to be excited about it. I know Judith herself, the original one, is quite popular. This, it's a little costly, but I do think there are definitely ways to kind of make this one work. So I want to hear from you guys, though. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the reveals so far. There are more of them. I did not want to make the video super long, so I'm trying to keep it neat and concise, but we will have more videos posted all week long and beyond as we start covering this stuff, getting into 2024 and looking at what could be a very, very fun year for Magic. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.